Echo Lake is located on Mount Desert Island, which is off the coast of Maine. The lake itself is located within the limits of the town of Mount Desert, but some parts of the lakeshore are owned by Acadia National Park, and others are owned by the town or by private landowners. I chose Echo Lake because to do the entirety of Acadia National Park would take quite a bit more time than I had in this project. I do have quite a bit of previous experience with the area in general. My family comes from this area, one of the local families. But I also was a ranger for 3 years in Acadia National Park in the interpretation department. So I handled programs for visitors and getting visitors oriented to the area. So I knew a little bit about Echo Lake to begin with and a little bit about the management policies, but I certainly learned a lot over the course of this project. Now, Mount Desert Island and Acadia National Park are quite interesting because Acadia National Park does not have any set entrances or exits. Whereas if you go out to, let's say, Yellowstone, you will drive through an entrance booth and you're inside the park until you leave through another entrance booth. On Mount Desert Island, you can be driving through the town of Selmsville during one moment, and then suddenly you're in park property, and then you're back in the town of Selmsville. It's very patchwork, like a patchwork quilt of property that was donated or bought by the park. And so it's a little more difficult to manage in some aspects because of that. And it requires a very strong relationship between the park and the local communities on the island to really be able to manage practically everything that goes on. So it's something to definitely keep in mind as we discuss different issues. I also decided to do an online survey that I distributed through the Facebook local community groups. We have a barter and swap site. And the nice thing about an online survey is that people felt safe, or I believe they felt a little bit safer discussing some things that they would not have been able to say if I was talking to them on the beach, let's say. One of the more popular recreational sites in this specific area is Echo Lake Beach. It's a man-made gravel beach on the southern end of Echo Lake. It's one of two swimming spots that are actually in Acadia National Park. The other one is an ocean swimming area. So this is the freshwater swimming area for Acadia National Park. There are other swimming spots around the island, but those are more known by the locals and less by visitors. There is a lifeguard on duty between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Ike's Point is the official boat launch for Echo Lake. It's off of Route 102. It's before the Echo Lake Beach area. It's a gravel boat launch. It doesn't have a cement ramp or anything. It is maintained by Acadia National Park, and they do have a parking lot for day parking. Echo Vista. This is actually a boat launch area and a community access point, and it has been historically for some time. Some swimming and fishing also go on here as well during the summer months. It was once privately owned, but it has a long history of community usage. And in 2012 is donated to the Maine Coast Heritage Trust by Down East Audubon. And their goal is to maintain it as a place for community use and also to limit erosion at this site. It's just a very small gravel site just off the road, and you really just have to park along the road. The Bluffs was another area that I had to track down. It's also known as Echo Ledges by the Park Service. This is maintained by Acadia National Park. There is a parking lot at the head of the trail with a single bathroom, and there's a steep trail that goes down. And it actually opens up into this large ledge area that goes down to the water. A lot of people take their older children here to swim, and they can jump in. And dogs are also allowed in this area year-round, so it's a very popular place. Another big use, both historically and today, are sunbathers on the ledges there, and swimming was also a historical use. The parking lot also is used for access for the Acadia Mountain Trail, which is across the road on Route 102. I do want to give a brief mention to some other parts of the recreational sites. There are hiking trails that border or go near Echo Lake. Are not right along the shore. Those are maintained by Acadia National Park, the majority of them, and most are moderate to strenuous hiking. And the majority do begin from the Echo Lake Beach parking area. So that parking area not only deals with beach access, but also the access for those hiking trails. There are also many private homes and camps, both year-round and seasonal, that are right on the lake shore. This is a graph for the responses from a question I asked on my survey. I had 61 respondents, and I asked about their perceived issues at Echo Lake. This included all sites that we discussed before. And this graph is the community motivations for use at Echo Lake. Again, the same 61 respondents. And both these graphs were able to have multiple answers from the same person. One of the issues that I believed was present here at this site was overcrowding, and this was verified through the survey. Over 70% of respondents listed overcrowding as an issue at the site, and this includes limited parking. Visitor displacement was another issue. Visitors are displaced to this location and from it. This location is considered the quieter beach out of the two offered within Acadia National Park, so a lot of visitors do come over to this beach if Sand Beach, which is the ocean beach, is too crowded. However, many visitors also said that they would go to another local beach that maybe was not within the park, or even leave the island and go to a beach that's on the mainland. Noise pollution is another issue that many people mentioned, particularly noisy children and dogs. And conflicts with other users is a big one, because many different recreation types use this area and many different people use the area. In particular, I saw people with dogs coming down to the beach during a time when dogs weren't allowed on the beach, and several people mentioned that very noisy children often disturbed their peace and quiet. However, overall satisfaction for the site was very high. No one rated their overall satisfaction below a 5, 1 being the lowest, not at all satisfied, and 10 being very satisfied. In fact, the majority of users rated their satisfaction of the site at being 10, very satisfied. The positive aspects of social issues that were mentioned in the survey was that the site was safe, quiet, had many activity choices, and was secluded. The managerial issues for Echo Lake include maintenance of the areas. In particular, most of the public access points are park owned, and those are managed by the park and the federal government. That will depend on funding in the coming years and park plans. The current park plan is to maintain the current facilities, but not to expand upon them. However, areas owned by nonprofits or organizations that have public access, those areas, their maintenance will depend upon the organization and the community itself. Prohibited activities, such as dogs not being allowed on the beach during certain times of the year, or no alcoholic beverages at Echo Bluffs, really depend upon the visitors themselves. There are signs that are prominently posted at all park areas, and rangers do enforce those rules within the park areas. However, being on the west side of the island, and being that there's not as much visitation on this side of the island, sometimes there's a lot that goes on that is not caught by the rangers. And so a lot of it really depends on people themselves knowing the rules and following those rules. The community and private areas are much harder to enforce, though. Community areas may have rules posted on signs, but those may not be enforced unless there are police that are going by or a community member reports any issues are going on. The signage for this side of the island, that is a primary method of passing along information to the visitors in the park area, unless they visit the visitor center in Hulls Cove, which is on the east side of the island. User fees. Acadia does require a park pass to use any area owned by the park. However, Echo Lake is not entirely owned by the park. There is much of the area that is privately owned or publicly owned. Overcrowding is probably one of the greatest social issues in this area. As mentioned before, the area is used to take pressure off the more popular parts of the park, including Sand Beach and the Park Loop Road. And Acadia National Park does intend to maintain the current parking areas and amenities offered. However, their main focus is protecting the historical, cultural, and ecological areas. One of the options for reducing overcrowding in this location is to really push the use of the free Island Explorer shuttle bus that's running during the summer months. And this is provided through a partnership with Acadia National Park, LL Bean, the local communities, and a couple of other corporate sponsors. As for other social issues, conflict with other users is going to happen in this area because of how many different recreation types and how many different people use this area. However, one idea would be to designate a dog-friendly swimming area so that people who have pets, especially visitors and locals alike, can come down and use that area instead of going to the main Echo Lake Beach or to the bluffs, which can be quite dangerous if dogs are running off past people and jumping off the ledges. Recommendations for managerial conditions includes continuing with the plans to maintain the current national park facilities and amenities. In particular, signage would probably benefit from installing more interpretive signage. There's currently one interpretive sign at the Echo Lake Beach location, but not much beyond that to educate visitors about the area and why these rules are in place. Also, continued education at visitor contact sites to promote good stewardship practices and respect for other recreationists. And it's also establishing some roving locations for rangers during the busy season to maintain a presence and connect with visitors. And this would involve training rangers about the area and then sending them out for a couple hours at a time to a place like Echo Lake Beach to connect with the visitors, to answer questions, and to maintain a presence in these areas. Thank you for viewing this presentation. I know there's a lot to cover, and there's actually some stuff that we didn't get to cover in this presentation. But one of the big points to remember is that Echo Lake will require the partnership of local communities and the National Park Service going forward with the management of this area for recreation. I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.